really looking forward to this ever since our next guest was named the new play-by-play voice of the Winnipeg Jets on TSN television. What an honor it is to welcome in the new voice of the club, Dan Robertson, for the first time to Winnipeg Sports Talk. Dan, welcome to Winnipeg and welcome to the program, and thanks for doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
How's the first few weeks been? It's been quite a whirlwind for you as well. I can imagine. I mean, uprooting, moving to a new city right at the start of the season. Have you had a chance to take a breath yet, or what?
Not really. As we speak, I just got my furniture. It just arrived from Montreal yesterday, and so I just finished putting my apartment together today. So it's been that sort of thing. I've been, living in a hotel for a while, and I was lucky to be able to do that. But yeah, it's been a lot of that sort of stuff where you're trying to get your ducks in a row. And not that hockey's secondary, but once I get settled, I'll feel a lot more comfortable. But it's been really exciting. I mean, when I found out about the job, one of the things that really attracted me was the fact that it's such a great hockey market, and that's not kissing up to Winnipeggers. I mean, I've been doing NHL games for 8 years and always loved coming. I guess maybe it was the games that I would see and calling Canadians games were sort of similar atmosphere to when the Leafs were here last weekend, right? So it's kind of half and half, but it's always fun to call games here.
No doubt about it. We've got a sort of a running joke on the show, Dan, for the last few months that, with Dennis leaving and then Sarah announcing that she was moving over to work for the hockey club, that the folks at TSN television had a Brad Treleving-like offseason, somehow managing to replace Dennis and Sarah with yourself and John Liu. And obviously, it's a high compliment because we know what an incredible job Brad did, given what he was served up in Calgary in this offseason and what the Flames look like right now. But fill us in. Tell us, how did it come about? I mean, we'll get into your background of Montreal, but was this on the radar for a while? I mean, how did you find out that there was an opening, and how did it end up coming about that you're our new guy?
Well, about a week before the season ended, I had somebody who's from Winnipeg and in the business say, listen, I heard Dennis is going to retire, at least partially retire from the Jets broadcasts. And he said, you'd be good for that market. I said, well, I'm going to try. So I had done the last, 6 years maybe, fill-in work on TSN TV in Montreal. When Brian Mudryk would go to do curling, I would slip in there. And so my boss there was the person doing the hiring here. So I let him know right away I was interested, and he said, I'll get back to you in July, and he did. And it kind of lingered from there a little bit and went on a while. And, when I first talked with him, I had a pretty good feeling because he said, I have a good idea where there'd be a good place for you to live, which is actually where I am this very second. So he gave me a couple of other hints that I would have a pretty good crack at it. And then it just kind of evolved into that. So still, it was a little bit late in the game, and I had to hustle and get out of my lease in Montreal and all those fun personal things that nobody cares about. But it's been exciting. It was actually basically the same way I was when I was hired to do the Canadians radio. It was kind of late in the game too. It's just the way things go sometimes. It's no big deal, but it's a lot going on at once. But people have made me feel pretty comfortable, and everybody at TSN and everybody I run into. So it's been good. And as I say, once I get settled, I'll feel a lot better and be better at the mic too.
Well, I can tell you, throughout the off season, which was a very busy off season for us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, first of all, it was the coach, and then it was what was happening with the players. But the one thing that was a constant that we would get every single day, Remus, who's the new play-by-play voice? And it took a little while, but I think people have been very, very happy with your decision to move out here and taking over the gig. Did you know Dennis at all before? And then tell us about what Dennis may have imparted in you going in and following him after being such a big part of this community and this hockey team for the first 11 years.
I knew him a little bit. I knew him as, I guess, all hockey fans knew him or know him. He's been around a long time, right? Even before he had done the Jets games, I had listened to him do the Leafs games and just knew the name. And then one thing I always remembered about Dennis, it's funny, impressions people can make on you. It was one of my first trips to Winnipeg, and I'm trying to remember, is it the Fairmont Hotel maybe that we were staying in, and you can walk underground to get to the arena. So we were going to leave. I think it was morning skate, and Dennis came up to me and said, okay, this is how you get back. And he kind of drew me a map. Like, this is how you get back to the hotel. He didn't really know me, and I just thought it was really kind of him. And I actually, for once, followed instructions the right way. So, but I got back. But no, when he kind of knew that it was going to be me, I mean, he reached out and he was pleased for me. I think not to sound full of myself, but he was pleased it was me, I think. Maybe because I'm a little older, maybe because I'm experienced. I'm not sure why. But we all went out for dinner before he moved to BC, and that was great. And, I've asked him some other little things about just stuff about the city and different contacts and that sort of thing. And he's been quick to really help me and quick to, wish me luck and a couple of my first broadcasts and that sort of thing. So, I've always thought I'm a pretty good judge of character. I'd like to think I am. And as soon as I kind of met him, I had a pretty good feeling about him. And then you hear what a good guy he is. And so that's pretty clear. And we know what a broadcaster he is.
No, it's funny. I mean, people have said the same things about you, and I think that is high praise. Dan, listen, I want to talk to you about the Jets and this upcoming road trip, but, considering that you are a new face and new voice to many people, by the way, folks, check out Sean Fitzgerald's piece in The Athletic about Dan's journey to Winnipeg. It is a great, great read. But fill us in a little bit of the 411 on Dan Robertson, your Acadian roots, Nova Scotia, I know, and how you ended up getting in. It was a long, circuitous route to an NHL play-by-play booth.
It was. And yeah, that article that you alluded to, Sean Fitzgerald wrote it in The Athletic, and I read it, and I was really moved. He talked a lot about my father in it and my family, so it was something. And, what I'm reading it and thinking, and obviously I told him this stuff. I didn't get my first NHL job till I was 44. And when I see it in print, I think, no, that's not old, but it's not particularly young either. So I think I got into the business when I was 30. Started volunteering at a place, Eastlink TV in Nova Scotia. It's a cable provider. It's a cable company. And I thought we built a pretty good sports coverage channel with Quebec League hockey and university hockey. And I called football and basketball. Those were the main ones. And I hosted. And then I got into play-by-play after that. And then in 2014, and I had applied for you should see the stack of go-away letters I had from various NHL teams from over the years. It's kind of funny. So I applied for everything that I saw. And when in 2014, there was a new broadcast deal between the NHL and broadcasters. And someone had asked me if I wanted to apply for the regional TV games for the Montreal Canadiens. A man named Joel Darling kind of pushed for that. Joel's been good to me over the years. And then I didn't get it. John Bartlett got it. But I knew that John Bartlett had been the radio voice of the Canadiens. So right away I emailed the general manager at 690, and he eventually had me for a tryout and hired me. So eight years beginning in 2014 with the Canadiens on radio and a bit on TV, and now I'm here.
Well, and you're going from one hockey mad market to another one, and we talk a lot about this, for instance, when the Leafs come or the Habs come, but I mean, there is something about being in a Canadian market, and Montreal, of course, is a bigger city than Winnipeg, albeit hockey is a religion. But while the numbers might not be the same, I'm sure you've seen the passion in this market for this hockey club, even in the short time you've been here so far.
No, I have. And I know this isn't exactly what you're talking about, but as far as numbers go, we were talking at TSN, and I've learned the last little while about the reach that the games have, in Northwestern Ontario. And really, it's quite wide, and it reaches a lot of people. So I think that's pretty great. And I mean, it's just getting a sense of, through the team's first 6 games, they've all had tough opponents. So they're 3-3. I think they're doing pretty well, but they're 2-3. We go to Dallas and they get beat. It's like, this team's terrible. You get some of that online, which I guess you're going to get anyway. And then they have a nice win against St. Louis, and it's 180 degrees the other way. So that's part of the fun. It blew me. I mean, before I went to Montreal, I thought I knew what a passionate hockey market was about and what it was like in Montreal. Then I got there, and it blew me away how, it's crazy, right? It's just insane, and it's fun. But at some points, like last year was the worst season they ever had, and you're kind of in the middle of it, and it almost drags you down. But on the flip side, when it's good, it's great, and I get that sense here too. And I haven't. I would think in 8 years I probably called 6 games here. I mean, we missed a couple of years because of COVID, and obviously you just get here once a year, but. But I've said this. I get a sense of what the Jets mean to Winnipeg and beyond, like the whole community. I hope I'm right. I think I'm going to be proven right. And I said earlier, I've always applied for TV jobs when they come available. I actually tried for a job with the Devils this year, and I didn't get it. That's fine. But I always thought wherever I go, if I go somewhere else, I want hockey to matter there, and it certainly does here, as you guys know better than I do.
Dan Robertson is the new play-by-play voice of the Winnipeg Jets on TSN, joining us now on Winnipeg Sports Talk for the first time. Well, as far as you mentioned, the first 6 games, and yes, there has been a lot of ups and downs so far. And listen, if you're looking for calm, measured, and reasoned takes, Dan, Canadian hockey markets might not be the best place to start looking for it. That being said, though, I think we all looked at the schedule, even, with the potential that this team has, and even the most optimistic Jet fan would look going, it's a bit of a meat grinder through the first 10 games. At 3-3 and coming off a win the way they played against St. Louis, which, as Scott Arniel said afterwards, really is pretty darn close to the blueprint. It certainly hasn't been perfect, but for a team that had a lot to come back from after a very disappointing season, I think overall there is some reason to be certainly fired up for this upcoming road trip where the tests continue for the Jets.
No, I agree, and I'm trying to get caught up on what happened last year. I mean, I know what happened record-wise, and anecdotally, I'm learning.
You don't want to, Dad. You don't want to.
Well,
you're coming in perfect. Just
start from scratch.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. But it's been interesting, and I feel for Rick Bowness. Right, here's a guy who comes here, and it's driving him nuts. I mean, he's made the point to say I've missed very few games over the year, and it's true. And actually, Rick's a Nova Scotian too, who I know a little wee bit. I played in a golf tournament of his a while back, but he's a good guy, and I look forward to getting to know him. But it's the things that they preach throughout training camp and playing fast, and that doesn't necessarily mean just skating fast. It's moving the puck north as soon as you get it, not so many side-to-side passes, pressure in all 3 zones, and that sort of thing. I mean, we saw, you're right, in the Blues game a couple of nights ago, that was almost played to perfection. I don't know if that was a better game than the one they had in Colorado, considering they were playing the Stanley Cup champs, and the Avalanche had all the momentum midway through the game. I was really impressed by the way Winnipeg just stuck to their game and came back. But, I look at the game against the Blues, and one thing that Bowness has said, and I get it, that we don't want to rely too much on Connor Hellebuck. But it's awfully nice to know you have a good Connor Hellebuck back there. And I know the numbers were a little inflated last year, and again, I don't know if that was Connor or just the team defensively. Probably a bit of both, as usually is the case. But, man, he's looked good when he's had to. That game against the Blues, they had some chances early, and without him being top-notch, who knows where it goes. But in front of him, I thought they were very strong. So I don't know if they can play that way 82 games. I know they can't, but I don't know how often they can. But if they do, they're going to be a handful, I think.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And, you want to see some positive reinforcement for the work that the team and the coaching staff has been doing. And I think they certainly got it last night. And make no mistake about it, that tape is going to be shown to the team over and over again when maybe they're in a bit of a funk, is going, guys, you've done it before. That's what you want to see done. And certainly was a really fun night in the rink last night. And now off for 3 and 4. And, Dan, you're going to get to, a little Hollywood, and then the first game in the Mullett Arena and the Winnipeg Jets. Do we know about the press box there, or what your broadcast situation is going to be?
I don't know anything about it, to be honest with you. I just know roughly what the capacity is. I'm looking at it as a positive. I mean, we have to be close to the ice surface.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, you'll have a great view, I'm sure.
Who knows? I mean, and that's one of the things I like best about here in Winnipeg is you're really on top of things, and I love the accent or the vantage point. So, I mean, it's hard not to get too off topic here, but it's hard to believe that that's going to be an NHL rink for the foreseeable future. So, I don't know if it's an advantage to the Coyotes or not. I don't think it really matters, but it's it's going to be cool to be right on top of things. And then we'll see. I mean, it's back to back, right? LA and Arizona, and then another trip to Vegas. And we saw that they were pretty strong last week. So 2 trips, 2 games in 10 days at Vegas, and then Jets will get to come home. But it's awfully nice for them. You know, it's such a long season. You don't want to blow anything out of proportion. But I think the mindset going on the road and winning that game against St. Louis and being 500 allows you to, get away from at least a little bit of pressure as they get set for the Kings.
Dan, I know you've been around the team quite a bit. Just in conversations, being around, any players sort of catch your eye? Great conversations. Anybody stand out so far in your interactions with the guys you're calling?
Yeah, I'm just trying to slowly introduce myself to everybody. And Nate Schmidt is a great guy. And listen, Kevin Sawyer told me before I even got here, and Kevin's been wonderful. Who the great guys are. And I had a good chat with Neil Pionk as well when I started. And of course, I went to Morgan Barron because he's from Halifax, and I was just kind of looking for that maritime tie.
Big goal last night.
Yeah. And he's an intriguing player. I don't think he'll ever be a high points guy, but he's a big boy and he's got some energy. So I think he looks like a pretty good third line player. I had a chat with Mark Scheifele just briefly the other night too, but that's kind of I'm slowly kind of trying to integrate myself that way. It was neat when I talked to Morgan. His brother, Justin, I called his first NHL goal in Montreal last year. So, I kind of leaned into it a little bit because he's a Nova Scotian too. And I told Morgan that. He goes, "Oh yeah, my mother, when you got the job, my mother sent me the clip of that goal call." So I thought, "Oh, that's kind of nice." So that's the thing. I think maybe to my disadvantage sometimes I'm not the kind of guy who, how do I say this? I could be a little pushier. I like to give guys their space, but I'll get there and I'll get to know guys. And, I'm not looking for any deep, dark secrets, but it's nice just to be able to get into the room and to be able to add something to the broadcast that you can't find online. I always say anybody can go anywhere and find out that player X has 3 goals and 4 assists, but there's a select few who can go in and actually have the conversation and be able to relay that to the viewers and the listeners. So I like that part of it.
Well, I'll tell you what, put Connor Hellebuck at the top of your list as well, because as great of a goalie he is, I think he's an even better interview and definitely one of the most interesting dudes in that locker room right now. And he's playing very well. Dan, this has been so much fun. Once again, welcome to Winnipeg. Hopefully we can do this again later on during the season. Keep Paulie Edmonds, our buddy, and the rest of those guys in check on the road out to Vegas and California on the weekend. And I guess when you come back from the road, you'll actually have a few days to really get settled here in your new home of Winnipeg, being the play-by-play voice of the Jets.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't have to go outside to go to work, so I didn't care how much rent costs. That makes me feel pretty good. And it'll be the first game we come back will be against the Canadiens, so that'll be kind of a neat experience for me too.
Well, you're looking forward to that one, and of course, looking forward to your call over the course of this next 3-game road trip. Dan, much appreciated. Everyone in the chat welcomes you as well, and here's to a great season and a long time covering the Jets and being our voice at the games here on TSN. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure. Anytime.